After all those Sonic videos, we're back again to finish the rest of the X series. Minus Maverick Hunter X. X5 is a particular case, considering this was meant to be the final Mega Man X game. Honestly, there's not much to talk about when it comes to development here. I mean, this is usually where I give a massive dump on the development history of the game and how the series changed, but I can't really do that here. I mean, I can say that KG and Afune didn't have a super hands-on experience with this game. Moving on to the Mega Man Zero series. As such, you really only tell this team his ideas. There is unused stuff, I guess, like special weapon colors for the Gaia armor, and this gift of X in the heart pose, that not even going on the Kangaroo 4 was interesting. I guess I can say the American version changed the intro. The same thing happened for X4. In the Japanese version, there was a vocal song over the opening. I didn't play it last time considering I thought I would get hit with by YouTube's copyright system, but it doesn't seem like I will, so I'll just play it here. In my opinion, a really good song, compared to the English version which is just an instrumental. The Japanese version of X5 that had a song called Monkey is actually sung by X's Japanese voice actor, and the international version is a remix of the Rep and Get scheme for Mega Man 3. But no more stalling, let's get into the game itself. This game still uses the same general gameplay setup in the last 4 games. You can still clean the walls and dash, and there are still items to find in levels. It's not broken, so don't fix it. Even though the beginning of this game is presented like the beginning of X4, where you choose either X or Zero, in this game you can actually play as both in the same campaign. The catch is that whoever you chose initially gets a small boost. X gets to start with a force armor, but it is slightly nerfed in this version. It can't fire infinite special weapon ammo, and it can't do the Nova Strike. However, it reduces the special weapon ammo you use. Zero gets his Z-Buster, and while it isn't god-awful, it isn't exactly good. Compared to the expectations you would have with seeing him using an X1, it's pretty pathetic as it takes a second or two to shoot, and it barely does anything. So you'd be there for like half a minute shooting at something before it dies. So yeah, just choose X. X and Zero now also have a part system. This game was actually the first game to have a part system. Extreme 2 coming out after this game took the part system from this game and slightly expanded on it. Stuff like faster ground movement, a faster dash speed, making you fire constant energy shots, and jumping higher than usual. It's really fun to test around with these as they shake up the gameplay. Speaking of upgrades, X doesn't get 1 new armor set, he gets 2. Counting the first armor and a later armor you can get, X can get a total of 4 armor sets in this game. The new ones are the Falcon armor and the Gaia armor. The Falcon armor is more focused around mobility. X has a weaker charge shot with a smaller hitbox. He's able to float in the air and fly. He's also invincible when he does this. This can completely break stages, which is why I'm not the biggest fan of this armor. He also can't charge special weapons, which sucks. I think the Gaia armor is pretty awesome though. Sure, it has weaker mobilities and you can't use special weapons at all, but this thing just shreds health-wise. Just you bring this thing to a boss and watch it completely decimated, as it's able to charge in like a millisecond, and the Giga attack packs a giant punch. I also think this game's soundtrack is really good, returning slightly to the SNES's games of rock style, while also not being afraid to be more atmospheric like X4. Let's see what we got here. You can duck in this game. It's weird that at this point the franchise was like 13 years old, and only now it has a duck. No, apparently the English manual for Mega Man 1 said that you can duck. Okay, enough dilly-dallying. Time to make what title makes sense. Also, I'm going to be comparing this game to the other games a lot. So like X3, the ideas for this game were pretty fun, but there are just some massive problems that hold this game back for me. The parts system is really fun, but actually getting the purse doesn't make sense at all. For you to get purse, you need a boss to have a level of 8 or higher. How do you do that, you may be asking? Well, you need to have 10 in-game hours left. Why those hours we'll go into in a bit. But basically you have to game over and go to the stage select 6 times before you can actually play the game. If you do complete the stage, you can choose one. Let's say if you're playing as X and Zero in a single playthrough, and you beat, say, Squid Atlas stage. This stage you can either get the quick charge, which speeds up your charging time, or get the saber extend, which extends the Z Saber's hitbox. You can't get both. While I was typing this, I realized that this might be fun to some people, and honestly, more power to you if you do, but you only have to jump through so many hoops to the point I just wish that you could get both. While we're still here, let's talk about another problem I know a lot of people have. The item game in this game is completely whack. Every item returns, and I'll say I did at least use a weapon energy tank once, which is better compared to X4, which in my near 5 years of playing X4, I'm pretty sure I've only used it like twice. The EX tank is even more useless in this game, because when you game over, you just start at the last checkpoint you died at. So game overs pretty much mean nothing in this game. Actually getting the items is really tedious. Then the first 4 levels you're told to go to is pretty straightforward, as X and Zero can collect most of the available collectibles. It's the last 4 that's the problem. The Gaia armor is the armor you get in the last 4 stages, but to get the Gaia armor you need the Falcon armor. In this game, you need to have a complete armor set before you can use a piece of armor you just got. Let me explain by making a comparison. So in X3, I really like the flip parts. They're probably my favorites in the series. The thing is, if I only want the dash parts and nothing else, I could just go through the game without getting anything else. In X5, if you wanted the arm parts from a Falcon armor, you can't just use the arm parts. You have to have your whole armor set to use the arm parts. But to complete the Falcon armor, you need to go back to Duff McWillen stage to get the body part before doing the last 4, ticking off time off the timer. But after you finish the last stages, you have to turn back around and backtrack to get the last 4 heart tanks. Yes, it's as convoluted and as annoying as it sounds. It even makes the Gaia armor seem less cool, because before the final levels, you just use it as a giant fetch quest. Part of what made the other X games, heck, even Mega Man 7 and Mega Man 8 fun, is that you could strategize what levels you go to first, or how to get into places unintentionally to minimize backtrack routes. This gave you more of a reason to actually go out of weakness order. Now yeah, in most cases you end up backtracking at least once, but in X2 and Zero's playthrough in X4, you can get away without having to backtrack once. Even in X's playthrough you have to backtrack once, because once you do Magma Dragoon and then Web Spider, you can tackle the stages in whatever order you wanted to. Even though the actual order is more strict in X2, with freedom in the form of the X-Hunters, as you have to decide when you want to fight them and who you want to fight, or if you even want to fight them at all. This game doesn't really have that kind of depth. It could have had with a part system, but because the way to get most of the items are very specific, it doesn't allow you to do that. Like in Duff McWillen stage, you're supposed to use a charged gel shaper to reach the other side. Now, there's other stuff you could use to break it, but it doesn't work. Zero can break this part of the ceiling with his Denjin, but X can't with his Tri-Thunder. Hey, X and Zero still play the same as we did in X4. But hey, maybe, just maybe this game can still be fun if the level design is good. And while it's not bad, it's honestly a downgrade from X1, X2, and X4. On technicality, I like it more than X3's because there are actual good levels in this game, opposed to X3 where I thought every level was just okay. But even good levels here aren't as good as the good levels from previous games. I really like Dark Necrobat in the Skyverse stages, especially Dark Necrobat with his gravity switch mechanic. But also, I thought I could have done way more with his gimmick. That's something I could also say about Izzy Glow, Spike Rose, and Grizzly Slash's levels. Those are just kind of whatever stages. Spike Rose's stage lasts for like 2 minutes, and doesn't go further with his gimmick. Grizzly Slash is the worst version of Beast Slash's stage, which that stage was already one of the weaker stages in X4. And then you got Duff McWillen and Squid Atlas stage, that go way too far with a gimmick. But to be honest, that is even worse part of the stage, because the actual stage turns around these switches you have to turn on and off. This is just the kind of puzzle that just solves itself, so it really isn't that entertaining. Go down, hit the purple switch, go up, hit the orange switch, go back down to hit the purple switch, etc, etc. For years, I regarded Death McWilliams as the worst Mega Man stage I've ever played, and while I don't think it's the worst stage I've ever played, this stage is still kind of awful. You're basically being chased down by this giant ship robot thing, while you're trying to fight it. The problem is, this thing moves at the speed of molasses. Seriously, you can improve this stage tremendously if you speed this thing up. Doing this routine 3 times doesn't help. The other worst part is that you have to come back here at least twice 400%. 3 times if you want the heart tank as X. So yeah, while X-Zero is still fun to play compared to previous games, these levels are just hit or miss. What isn't helping is the Maverick Hunter's new navigator, Alia. Now admit, I think people blow Alia out of proportion. At max, she really only bothers you like 4 times during a stage, and you can just mash through it. For me, it's really annoying, but it's not that bad to me. But I can't agree on that it ruins the pace of stages. The intro level is like 2 minutes tops, but it gets extended to almost 5 minutes because Alia stops you every 2 seconds. The worst part is when she does interrupt you, it's some of the most obvious advice ever. I don't think people would complain as much if all her dialogue unskipped wasn't 25 minutes in length. But I can't enjoy the gameplay of X5, I just don't think it holds up compared to the other games. But hey, I've always kind of liked the story of X4, and doing the X4 video made me appreciate it way more. So maybe I can find enjoyment in the story of X5? The story starts with Sigma attacking a city where X and Zero quickly dispose of him. In actuality, it was his plan all along to spread the Sigma virus all over the planet. What's worse is that Dynamos took control of the space colony Ark, the space colony named Eurasia, and plans to crash it into the Earth in 16 hours. I wonder where I've heard this before. By the way, there's a reason why there's a timer. What's even worse is that the parts of the Enigma cannon are scattered across the Earth. And what's even worse is that it's guarded by Mavericks. From here, 2 things can happen. The Enigma cannon can succeed, or it can fail. There's 9 times out of 10, it will. If it fails, you have to get the pieces for a space shuttle. It can succeed, or it can fail and Zero turns Maverick. Or if you run out of time, it can collide with the Earth and Zero turns Maverick. But honestly, the problem with this story is that it's pretty backloaded. Sure, X4 is backloaded too, but it at least had something notable happen before the ending. And to me, at least had a more interesting premise. The bosses do get more interesting lore though. Like the Skyro is a part of Repliforce, and he fights X and Zero because that's what he thinks Colonel, General, and Iris would have wanted him to do. Squid Arrow was friends with Launch Octopus from X1, and he left after the mission in X1 was done. In this game, the Mavericks don't immediately turn Maverick, but they turn Maverick just after meeting them. I do also enjoy that X and Zero go back and forth with these guys, and it showcases the difference in their character. X tries harder to negotiate with these guys, while Zero would rather just cut to the chase. But to get to one of my main points of the story, we get introduced to all these characters and don't really follow up on them. I guess we do hear a lot from Alia because she's constantly nagging at you, but besides that, she really doesn't have much to her character. I very frequently that Douglas and Cygnus are characters in these games, especially Douglas because he doesn't even have a mention in X7 or 8. Cygnus at least has a somewhat interesting backstory. Cygnus became the leader of the Maverick Hunters because the previous leader, Dr. Kane, stepped down. The problem is it's only in the manual, but hey, it's something at least. Douglas's entire character begins and ends at being the mechanic. I do appreciate this game gives more legitimacy to the idea that X and Zero are part of a team, and not just 2 guys. Even having the pre-rendered guys in the background helps compared to X, Double, Zero, and Iris being in a random room in X4. There's also Dynamo, who is a person who incited the whole Eurasia incident in the first place, but he doesn't get any characterization. He stops you tries to distract you, and while his boss fights are fun, it is just kind of annoying when I'm just ready to be done with this game. You don't even kill him the second time. He runs away never to be seen again. So yeah, the story has a couple of cool concepts, but overall it has a lot to be desired. But that's kind of how I feel about everything in this game. Whenever I come back to this game, I try to come in with an open mind. Hoping I can find stuff I feel 100% positive about besides the music. But I don't know, I just never do. It's really sad because I really do think that this game could have been great, but the developers made some super questionable decisions. Luckily for this game, there is a ROM hack that fixes a lot of its issues. If Mega Man and Sonic have anything in common, is that its fans are willing to pick up the slack when it comes to fixing their games, or giving us quality releases while waiting for another game. The Improvement Project is a ROM hack for X5 by Ace D's. Now it looks to improve X5 and does in many ways. To start, both X and Zero gain health upgrades. Their hurt tank gets 0 and X will get the same amount of health boost, and vice versa. The beginning section of the Dark Necrobat stage now doesn't have the slowdown, and Zero does less damage to bosses. One of my favorites are the fish robot moving way faster, turning a stage that I thought was terrible into a stage that's actually pretty decent. X being able to use incomplete armors makes it so that the Gaia armor doesn't feel like it's here for a checklist. This game is how I actually learned how awesome a Gaia armor is. You can get both parts opposed to just getting one. But by far my favorite feature is the change in how you get things in this game. Remember how I was saying it was dumb that Zero's dungeon can break this crumpled ceiling but not Tri-Thunder? Now both electric weapons are enough to break it. You can also use the charged Tri-Thunder to get the Falcon armor part. There's also the retranslated script, which is the footage I've been using for the story section. While cool, I don't think it really improves on the story or shows that X5 translators butchered the story, but other characters still get barely any screen time. So on the whole, I think this is a great mod in my opinion. In terms of experience I thought was a mess into something that I actually can call great. I'll leave a link to it in the description. But let's finally get into finishing this video, shall we? So remember how in the story section I was talking about the different paths the story can take? Well, all of those paths are random, but an enigma can is most unlikely to work out of all of them. It's so unlikely to work to the point that me doing my Zero playthrough on the Legacy Collection was my first time getting the can to work. Mind you, I've owned this game for nearly 5 years. I even got to look at my X playthrough. That was cool, but that wasn't the ending I wanted, so I just had to restart. The space shuttle working feels more 50-50 though. Naturally, I don't really mind the outcomes being random. On paper, it adds cool replay value. Saying besides X3, but no other game in the series tries to play around with multiple endings. You might want to go back to see what endings you might have missed, for example. My main problem is the possibility of being locked out of using Zero. As I've stated before, Zero can turn Maverick where he interacts with the space shuttle. It's properly built up in a stage and in a cutscene. In the game, Zero gets stronger when he gets infected with the Sigma virus, opposed to X who gets hurt by it. While it would have a bigger impact if it was animated, it's still a cool cutscene. But the problem is, if you give this route, you lose access to playing Zero. If you played X only or X and Zero at the same time, it isn't really a problem. And the main problem is if you're Zero only. If you gave Zero everything you could and picked him at the beginning, yeah, you kinda just boned. Zero at max to get 3 out of 4 armor pots, which you need to get the Gaia armor pots, which you need in order to get the 4 hot tanks exclusive to X. Even with that, collecting the body part is impossible without the charged gel shaver. Remember, if you choose Zero at the very beginning, you lose access to the force armor, which means you can't charge special weapons. Which means you're completely out of luck to getting the Falcon armor, which means you can't get the Gaia armor, which means if you get this ending, which, and again, is completely random, you might just be boned. I mean, unless you want to play as a non-upgraded X. Sure, I can't see about getting good enough to have a game where I can beat it like this. The thing is, I don't find this game fun enough to the point I'd like to try that. Not that I really hate myself enough to do that. But in the improvement project, this is a lot less of an issue. Then Zero can get all the armor pieces, and X gets to keep a 4th armor regardless of who you choose. Well, getting to the actual Sigma stages themselves, I have almost nothing to say about them really. I just think the stages themselves are pretty whatever. I thought the Yellow Devil throwback fight was about as obnoxious as the original, only this time you can't do a pause glitch to just kill it in like 2 seconds. Well, a consistent way to not get hit is to do this. The Ragna fight was cool though. The X and Zero fight is the one I'm more conflicted on though. You see, since X2, they've been hyping up this ultimate unavoidable battle between X and Zero. Even became more sporadic in X4. With that game confirming that Zero was created by Wily. As such, it's impactful when Zero turns Maverick, because this is probably what Zero was supposed to be like in the first place. A boss mechanically is kind of fun on both ends. Zero will use upgraded versions of his usual attacks, while X uses the charged special weapons from X4. Even the music is going off here. There's a reason why this song is so popular to the point where it's like the 2 songs from the X series to make it into Smash Ultimate. But the is one thing. If you're on the path where the Enigma can works, or Zero comes out of the shell not being a Maverick, this fight is super dumb. X comes in and asks Zero to step out of the mission, since his Maverick levels are unstable or something like that. Zero refuses to go back for whatever reason, and rather than just going together, they conclude that they must fight so that X can finally bring Zero home. It has the same energy as the rival battles from Sonic Heroes or Sonic Battle, but they're just out of character and completely nonsensical. When they could be settled with either side just having slightly better communication skills. Not helped by the fact that all three versions of a fight are very anticlimactic. It's like we're trying to take pot shots at X only for Zero to step in. This leads to the final stage. I wonder what it could be. I have to talk about this, won't I? Okay, so if you've been following this retrospective in order, you'd probably get the idea I don't like a boss rush. But this isn't true at all. I absolutely despise them. Sure, maybe I could excuse it back in the NES days, but at this point we've overstayed our welcome. Let's not even talk about what special makes them bad here. So remember how in the beginning of the video I was talking about how bosses have levels? All this did was affect for health bars and not much else. Making the fights only took slightly longer than they would otherwise. But for some reason now, every single boss has a level of 90. Meaning you're gonna be here for a while. But what's part that these guys have no changes. I will say I like the boss design of these 8 Mavericks. My favorite being Izzy Glow. There is one net positive, I guess. In Sigma Stage 2, you can get the Ultimate Armor for X and the Black Armor for Zero. They're optional, but in my book, the armors are pretty much necessary if you want to get this done quickly. Then there's the final boss, which I think is also pretty mixed. I think the first phase is neat, but a little bit annoying as Zero. The second phase is probably the weakest in the series up to this point, besides Kaiser Sigma. Honestly, I already thought the regular Sigma sprite was a step down to X4's, and doesn't do the original art justice. But to be frank, the final form for Sigma looks atrocious. It's just a really crusty PNG. I don't even think it's fun to fight. So yeah, for something that was supposed to be the end of the series, this was pretty weak. After the fight, there's 3 endings. Zero basically has his life flash before his eyes. If Zero turned Maverick, then X and Zero both die. But Dr. Light decides to revive X but wipe his memories of Zero. X also mentions a project he's working on called Elysium. Apparently this is a reference to the Mega Man Legends series, but as of right now I've never played either of those 3 games, so I'm not familiar with it. In the good ending, the previous events still happen, but when Dr. Light revives X, he doesn't remove his memories of Zero. X takes X's Z-Saber and carries on with a battle in his name. What's interesting is that the PS1 Japanese version had a vocal theme here, and in the international release they replaced it with music from a Bad Enemy. Which personally I much prefer. So if you can't tell already, I think this game would have been a rather weak conclusion had this been the last game like they planned. I apologize if me comparing this game to the other 4 games seems unfair, but when this is supposed to be the final game in the series, especially when to me, X1, X2, and X4 are some of the best 2D platformers out there, this game being last places expectations on this game that I just don't think it doesn't live up to in the slightest. But there's something interesting, because in my opinion I actually kind of like this game. Though it doesn't mean everything I said before was a lie. But I don't know, I just like this game for some reason. I thought doing this video would have made me figure out my true feelings on this game are. But honestly, I've come out more confused than I did before working on this video. I'm very glad this wasn't the end for the X series. There were still characters and mechanics that needed to be fleshed out. And to close out without doing that would have been disappointing in my opinion. But for now, that's all for the video. If you like it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.